seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah. Everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Pipe Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepherdson, and today is Monday, February the 7th, 2022, and I can't thank you enough for joining us for another episode of On the Pipe Podcast, but it is Monday, and this is OTP, which means I am not just the host tonight, I am the co-host. In a few moments, I will be joined by my co-host for OTP Weekend Review with Stu, none other than Stu Baylor Jr. will be joining us here in just a few moments to talk everything Sumter National Enduro. He ended up taking the overall win, so we will talk to him obviously about that, and then a little bit about the rest of the race, and even looking forward a little bit into the weeks to come. But thank you very much for joining us and for tuning in this week. I'm super excited to bring you another episode and bring you another show, especially with this whole series that we're kicking off for the year, the Weekend Reviews with Stu. So this will be the second installment of that. Don't forget, tomorrow will also be OTP Tuesdays. We have a few guests lined up. There's so many people to talk to. I'm debating on making more than 3 guests, but right now we got 3 guests for sure. Might even be more than that, but OTP Tuesdays will always remain on Tuesdays. Imagine that. Kind of makes sense if you think about it. But before we get things started, I want to give a big thanks to our friends over at Armored Graphics. You can check them out online, armoredgraphics.com, or on the social interwebs at Armored Graphics. They make the finest high-quality dirt bike graphics that you can possibly use your money to purchase. And if you want your money to go even farther, then you can use promo code OTP20 and you can save 20% off of your very own Armored Graphics kit. Now, I have gotten some questions about the OTP specific kits. They are not pictured on the website, but if an OTP kit is something that you would like to put on your motorcycle, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Let me know what bike you ride. I will shoot you what the kit looks like for that specific bike, and then we will go from there and we'll get you dialed in. But armorgraphics.com, promo code OTP20 will save you 20%. Also, a huge thanks to Beta Motorcycles, Beta USA. Beta Motorcycles is the official manufacturer of On the Pipe Podcast. Beta Motorcycles has been family owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest quality enduro, trials, and dual sport motorcycles that are known for their premium quality and rideability. Beta Motorcycles are the best looking bikes on the market and back it up with their superior performance. Head over to betausa.com for more information on their available models or to find a dealer near you to get yours today. So couldn't be more thankful for Beta Motorcycles. I will be getting my Beta motorcycle this week, although I can't do a whole lot but look at it. As of now, I'm still dealing with this broken leg, but we'll heal up from that here pretty soon. I'll definitely have to go putt around on it a little bit, but I go for my 12-week checkup here in 3 more weeks. So hopefully when I go for that, we'll get the all clear to really ride that Beta machine and see what it's got. Nonetheless, I'm excited to get that thing and check out and get some more seat time on one of those Beta motorcycles. Check out betausa.com to get your own Beta motorcycle. Anyway, we'll get right into the results and then bring Stu right in with us. In our overall, it was Stu Baylor taking home the win. Ryder Lafferty in second. Josh Toth rounds out your podium. In the Pro 2 class, it was Ben Nelko taking the Pro 2 win, and then some sibling rivalry back there for those final 2 podium spots. Brody Johnson beats out older brother Jonathan Johnson for second and third place in Pro 2. Jonathan Johnson making his first appearance on that Beta motorcycle machine. He looked to be good on it, looked to be fast on it. We talked to Jonathan last week. I know he's got high expectations for the year. He comes in with a podium finish at round number 1. Looking into our women's pro class, Rachel Archer won all but one test on the day. Corey Steed took the final test of the day away from her to get second place, and Mackenzie Tricker, your defending champion, ends up in that third place position. Trevor Maley is your overall amateur. He won the double A class. And I also want to give a big shout out to Chase Landers. I first met Chase Landers when he was just a wee little young lad racing mini bikes at the Full Gas Sprint Enduros. This kid is taller than me now and absolutely shredding out there. He was the top amateur not in a double A class. So he won the 250A class and it blew me away. So hoping to see big things from Chase Landers this year, but I thought that was really cool that he comes out and wins Sumter National Enduro in that 250A class. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get right into this thing. I'm not even going to let Stu know we're calling. You know what? We're gonna surprise him. He knows it's happening tonight. We don't have a day and a time. We're just going to give him a ring. We're calling our Sumter overall winner.
Oh.
Stu Baylor. Hey.
Hey, sorry, I missed your first call because we were doing a quick Instagram story with the kid. It was a very, very important life decision. I wanted to know if he preferred Michelob Ultra or Busch Light. Let's just say he chose the right thing.
All right, so we got Levi making big time decisions.
Yeah. He went with Busch, and I asked him if he was going to chase a Busch Light, what he would choose, and he said Crown.
Wait, hold on. So he's from the South, all about America, drinking Canadian whiskey. I expect better.
We have a Canadian as our track trainer, so like it's kind of just a thing now. Like it's just we're being overrun by Canadians. So like it's kind of weird, but whatever. We allow it.
All right. I guess you can take them both. So Levi, not even 1 year old, drinking Busch, chasing it with Crown. What more could you ask for?
There's a lot more beer in the outside fridge, Ryder.
Wait, hold on. So speaking of this Busch Light thing, are we gaining any traction on this?
I mean, I get traction on everything because I'm a little chubby, but as far as the Busch Light deal concerns, we are, you know, I want to say we're making headway, but we're trying. We've got an email. So we've got a point of contact.
All right.
Now it's just a matter of either sending them so many emails to the point that they stop, like till the point they block us, or either they finally decide to respond. So, as far as that goes, not really sure how it's all going to pan out, but if not, I guess we'll just switch to Keystone. Like, I mean, realistically, if you watched me riding this weekend, it reminded me of the old Keystone Light commercials.
Smooth like Keith Stone?
You caught it. All right.
Man, the Busch Light thing is actually pretty funny how well it's caught on. Like, even comments that don't have anything to, or posts that don't have anything to do with it, I see comments tagging Busch Light on everything.
Dude, their social media has got, just from what we've tracked, like 1,800 comments with my name and Busch Light's name tagged. So, realistically, I don't understand why they haven't cut me a paycheck and sent me the big contract yet.
Or at least a cease and desist for the Baylor Heavy logo.
That's, I don't even care which way it comes first. Either one of them, I'm probably going to have to sign whichever way we go. But I did get a badass collection from Busch. It's limited edition cans, some ice fishing cans.
Wait, so they actually sent that to you? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, that came from Busch. And they're sending another one. I'm getting a badass Daytona 500 collection of Busch cans with a koozie and t-shirt, like the whole 9 yards. It's actually really cool. So, like I said, we've got an email, we've got a point of contact, we've got our foot in the door. Now it's like putting your foot into the door of somebody who you probably just talked way too much to, and they're trying to get you out of the house. But if you can offer them one more cold beer, they might sit down and hear your next bullshit story.
Hey,
so
gotta start somewhere.
That's where I am.
So they're emailing you back. We got contact. We got a care package delivered. We got another care package on the way. You got to be most of the way in there. We got to hold their feet to the coals. If something doesn't happen between now and Big Buck, we're gonna have to tell everybody that email contact and just get everybody to email them.
I'm with you. Like I'll you heard it here first. I'll put the contact on the Monday after Big Buck, and we'll just like if we don't get anywhere from now to Big Buck, like at least we're gonna see some assist.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of people are gonna piss off Busch Light.
I don't see how any of that could go wrong.
You know, I've always been told it's better pissed off than pissed on. So, you know, it's just we're looking big picture here. I was a Coors Light guy. You know, most people don't realize this, but I was a Coors Light guy.
Oh.
If the mountains weren't blue, it wasn't for Stu. And that was my motto for a real long time. And then people kind of implied that I was a Busch Light drinker. Well, at that time, I really wasn't. But it became my new image that it was like Blue Crew Stu. I had to have a blue can and whatever. So it just kind of took off that way. People started bringing me Busch Lights. And I'm going to tell you what, if it's cold and wet, I'm going to drink it. So, people ask me what my favorite kind of beer is. At the end of the day, I don't like hot beer. So, cold and wet for me. So, Busch Light it was. People were bringing me a case of the Busch Light. I was taking it. Before you knew it, I stopped drinking Coors. Busch Light it was. And now I'm hitting these guys up. And they don't even respect the fact that my fans want Busch Light involved.
I mean, you even got guys like Craig coming up to you in the middle of the race offering you Busch Light. It's just it's the image.
I know. I mean, who is this guy? Some fat guy selling insurance.
You know, you're familiar with Brock Lesnar, right? The UFC fighter.
I am.
You know how he got his beer deal? Bud Light is a huge sponsor of the UFC, and Bud Light wouldn't pay Brock Lesnar. They wouldn't sponsor him. So he won the heavyweight championship, and the first thing he says in his interview, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go home and jump on my wife and probably drink a Coors Light. And he kind of looks around. He's like, yeah, Coors Light, because Bud Light won't pay me nothing. So maybe that's the approach that we need to take in some podium interviews.
So I should have done an interview after the race this weekend, is what you're saying. We'll work on it.
And then set them all up. We still got Big Buck. Couple weeks. Got races this weekend. There's time.
Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get that together. I'll start practicing. I'll start practicing my speech tonight, maybe. Probably not on the phone though.
We'll just have to have a few different cans, so that way whatever options present themselves, you're ready.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I may go as far. Now don't hold this against me. I may go as far as drinking a White Claw.
Oh. Hey, you gotta hydrate.
All I'm thinking at this point is White Claw now makes a sweet tea flavor. I mean, but we are in the South. Like, how can you go wrong with sweet tea and getting drunk?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure sweet tea and alcohol is my blood type.
That's a pretty good one.
There's something there.
You know, just in case you didn't, if you haven't heard it, it's like an episode of Jerry Springer in the background. Everybody in here is laughing, applauding. I've got the red signs up, like when you're supposed to not talk, except the kid. I can't keep him. He's just crawling around, shaking his head and bashing his head.
He's 2 Busch Lights deep right now. You don't need to worry about him.
He's extremely destructive. His teeth just popped out, and the only thing that'll keep him calm is a cold Busch Light that he can chew on the ground.
Man, we're really pushing this thing. They got to get on board. It only makes sense. But
I'm with you. I just we've got to we've got to force it to make sense to them. You know, it's like that hot girl. Like obviously, like my wife. Like I really had to focus on getting it to make sense to her. And same thing with this Busch Light deal. Like we've got to make it make sense to them. Even if you got to bullshit your way through it. She still thinks that she's the first girl I ever checked out. And I'm not telling her otherwise. So, yeah, I mean, you got to fake it till you make it. So, whatever. I've never drank any beer except Busch Light, unless Keystone. Maybe if Keystone's interested, I've never drank anything except Keystone, and I've never watched any other commercial.
Yep.
Smooth.
And those Coors Light blue cans, I mean, depending on the situation, might have had those, might not. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't know. It just depends on who's listening. Anyway, should we jump into this racing, like both feet in?
Oh, there was a race, wasn't there?
There was a race.
So you come out the five-time, and defending national champion. Come out the first round. Stu, what were you more pumped about by the end of the day, that you won the opening round of Sumter, or that all of your organs were still inside of you and there was no gash on your body?
Well, it was a really good thing that I didn't have to go to Richland Hospital in Columbia. I'm throwing that out there because it's the worst hospital I've ever been to. Don't ever go. I don't care what you have to do. Don't ever go. They're trying to hit my credit right now because I refuse to pay that bill because they've set me in the waiting room, bleeding out all last year. My kid is currently chewing on my toe. Builds a strong immune system, right? Anyway,
he's gonna get COVID. Be careful.
This kid is wired tonight. I'm waiting for him to take over this phone call here soon. So, you know, that was definitely a plus. Secondly, I got to back up what I said last year. A lot of people were asking questions. They were like, oh, well, you know, Stu after those first couple rounds last year really just never won another race. I mean, he was good, he was consistent, but he didn't win. And I said it last year. I said I didn't have to win. And I didn't. I had a comfortable points lead all year, put myself in a good position early, and I did what I needed to do. I think in the last 4 years, I might have finished off the National Enduro podium maybe twice. So realistically, it's one of those
real
races.
quick.
Sorry.
No, sorry about that. I was just going to say, real quick, that's actually one of the things I looked up today. So since 2017, you have finished either first or second. So that is 6 years of first or second, and the year before that, you were fourth. So that was the first time you were off the podium. The last 6 years, you've either won it or been runner-up.
Yeah, and 2016, actually, Limestone, whatever the Indiana round was, you'll see an 11th place in there. That race single-handedly cost me that. National Enduro's timing and scoring was actually off. I had multiple riders to vouch for it, but they wouldn't change it, of course, because nobody would admit to ever have done anything wrong in that series. So, no, I've had a really, really good run in National Enduros throughout my career. It's definitely been one of my favorite series. I really do enjoy that style of racing, and you know, I think it's one of those, like, it's really weird, but I can come into a test and I can tell you if I won or not. Section 1 this weekend, I came through and I told Corey, my mechanic, I said it's gonna be hard for anybody to beat me in there. I said realistically, if everything went clean, I should have a 5 to 7 second lead. And I came out, I think it was like right at 10 seconds, like 10.1 over Josh and 10.3 over Ryder and 10.3 over Josh, something like that. And then test 2 and test 3, I was like, well, I screwed up in there, which I think one of those tests I was still up front, second place, something like that, but I went down in 2 and 3, just did not ride the best I could. And Then test 5 and 6, I came in. I said, if anybody was close in there, I would give you my left nut. And it's just one of those things. Like, National Enduros is really weird. Once you've been up front, it's a matter of not how fast you go, but how many marks you miss. And I think that the days where you're going fast plus nailing your marks, it's really hard for anybody else to do the same. Not saying it doesn't happen. I mean, there's been days, you look back through, like last year, Louisiana, I rode a really great race, had 1 or 2 bad sections. Grant rode a really great race, 1 or 2 bad sections. We were separated by less than a second at the end of the day. Missouri National Enduro the year prior, myself, Ryder, and Grant were all within like 1 second. I mean, 3 guys after 60 miles of racing, which is like, I mean, it's crazy. Like, a lot of people, probably people that are listening here, don't understand. Like, National Enduro, you're starting with a line full of amateurs that nobody really knows where they stand, and you don't know how fast you're going on that day. You don't have another rider to pace off of. You are solely by yourself out there on the track, trying to get by lappers as fast as you can, trying to take any corner cut that you can. But if you cut the wrong corner, you catch a vine, you screw yourself. Catch a fence, screw yourself. Catch a ditch, screw yourself. So, like, there's a lot of gamble. So, you miss an arrow, you're screwed. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot more that play into a National Enduro. So when you see these things like this weekend, for example, I mean, 32 seconds, I think, is what I ended up winning by. After 60 miles of racing and over 2 hours of racing, it's not that much. Like, that's 2 crashes. I mean, it's 2 big mistakes from winning or losing. And then you look beyond that, you got 28 seconds, 16 seconds. I think it was like 15 seconds, 1 second, 9 seconds, 43 seconds. Like, you look back through the results, like, I think 1.5 minutes separated 2nd through 9th. 2 minutes separated the top 10, something along those lines.
Yeah, pretty close to it.
Like, there's, that was a realistic, like, probably one of the closest races I have ever seen in National Enduro across the board. Usually you see first and second, or first sometimes. We've seen myself, Toth, Grant over the last few years. Before that, Mullins, like, kind of get a really big gap on very few, but certain days. And over the last probably 2 years, it's usually like first or second, and then maybe 2 minutes back, and then you see a couple guys, then 3 or 4 minutes back, and then a couple other guys. Like, this weekend was really close racing across the board. I mean, you look back and, like, obviously Grant sucked this weekend. He was in like 8th place, but then you really look at it and, like, he wasn't that far off. I mean, he was a minute. I want to say just over a minute off the podium, which, that's 10 seconds a test. Like, 10 seconds every 10 miles. I mean, that's a second a mile. Like, you're really not. That's 1 mishap in every corner a mile. Every corner every 3 minutes. Like, that's easy to screw up. So, that's like this weekend. I was kind of impressed to see the times. Like, I was more or less focused on my race, and I didn't even know that Ryder was as close as he was, because he was so far back. Like, we'd look at the first few rows, and okay, yeah, we got it, no big deal. Anybody beyond row, where was that, Jade?
42. No. 35, 36, 34.
Okay. So we would look back, and for some reason we'd see Thad's time come through, and Ryder's would not come through a couple sections until after we saw Thad's. And we saw Ryder, like, way back at one point, and I was like, oh, well, all I've got to worry about is Toth. And then we come into test 4, and they're like, hey, Ryder just took over the lead. And I'm like,
yeah,
what are you talking about? He said he was way back. And they said, he beat you by 15 seconds in the last section. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? I looked at my wife because she's supposed to do the time, and she's not very good at math, apparently. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I've got toth. I'm riding the way that I need to ride. And Jade's like, I don't know. You know, she automatically goes to the defensive and blames it on something else or whatever. So I'm sitting there like, okay, well, Ryder just caught me with my pants down. And I thought I rode that test really well. And you guys are telling me that I thought I won that test, but actually I got beat by 15 seconds. What are we going to do? So I started automatically making excuses, forced the mechanics to change my clutch, doing the normal shit whenever you start getting beat. And then I followed it up by test 4 riding like absolute dog shit. Like my time wasn't bad, and luckily Ryder's was worse. That was the test that he screwed up because he probably would have beat me if not. And
real quick, off of that, you say the test that Ryder screwed up. Ryder got 10th place in that class, so same thing. Or in that test, he was 10th in class. So you look at it and you're like, damn, like what in the world happened? But just like you were saying, he was only 15 seconds off of you, and that was the difference to put him all the way back in 10th place and lose the lead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was especially, realistically until the last 2 tests, I would have to look back to see, but I want to say that the top 10 were within a minute, like 40 racing miles in.
Yeah.
And that's, for Sumter especially, that's a really close day. Like, I mean, I don't want to, like, I'm not... Who cares? Like, I'm going to say that I don't want to talk shit. Obviously, I want to talk shit. Like, in a non-shit talking way, you look back and like the Pro 2 riders that are there, like they were actually in the top 3 and 4 overall for the first half of the day, and dropped clear back to 13th, 14th overall after the last 2 tests. So, there was some major changes that took place in those last couple sections where guys just really, the pro class as a whole really started to gap out and change the way that we're riding. And I think that's a big part. Like, obviously on your post, you mentioned it, like in National Enduro, like Sumter or I guess not National, in the off-road world on the East Coast, Sumter is round 1 for everybody. It's the where is everybody? Where does everybody stand? So I think those last couple tests, everybody started to really push where they were, and you see like the time start dropping versus the Pro 2 guys, and not saying anything bad to those guys, but like that's where the Pro 1 guys kind of know, like, okay, it's time to go. Like, I'm sitting in 7th place. I've got more in the tank, and I could have done more in the last 3 sections. Let's see how far I can go in a safe manner. And that's, it's cool to see because, again, you see the first couple tests, like everybody, even the XC2 guy or Pro 2 guys were sandwiched together, and even some AA guys were getting pro guys. And then towards the end of the day, you see things start spacing out. You see guys who did their homework, guys who don't. Like, not trying to bash on my brother, he is my blood, but at the end of the day, he didn't do his homework. I mean, he faded like a $2 t-shirt at the end of the day. Jesse Ansley, I expected a little bit more out of him. We're looking at these XC2 guys and pumped these guys won their class. Well, shit, first place was 13th overall. Like, come on, man, you got beat by a Canadian motocrosser. Like, I mean, Jonathan Johnson should be able to ride better than that. Brody should have been able to run Grant's pace. Like, you look back through the ranks, like it was an odd day at Sumter for sure. But then I keep going back. The times were close. Like, you can look at both sides of it. Like, it wasn't like there was major gapping. Last time we talked about some names that, what do you expect to see out of guys? Who do you expect to see up front? This year, some different names. Jack Edmondson, that's a new one. We forgot to mention him altogether.
Yeah.
He's Gncc name that we can see doing really well. I don't even think we talked about Ryder Lafferty because, quite frankly, the kid sucked last year. He was so head fucked by that team that he was on, like he couldn't finish a race. He was all over the map. So now we see him. I mean, dude, I felt like I was on rails, and now he's up with me. Can he possibly be with Johnny Gerard? I mean, we're going to have coastal guys fighting it out for XC2. Jack Edmondson going to be in the mix. I know he didn't have a National Enduro showing, but National Enduro is a lot different from the style of racing that Jack's ever done. So, this weekend, just as it always does, kind of reveals a few different riders that you didn't expect to see up top before. I mean, you look at guys that are made major changes like Ryder and Jack. Like last time we saw Jack, I think he was 13th, 14th overall for the year on a 125, which in my book, that's pretty impressive. Like that tells me if he's on a good, 250F, he could possibly be a top 6, top 7 overall guy. That's top of the XC2 class.
Yeah.
If you see a guy that's running up front at National Enduros and battling with guys that are winning National Enduros, you look back through the years, those guys usually do really well in GNCC and XC2, whatever their respectable class is. If it's XC2, XC1, those guys usually seem to figure out a way to be in that top 5, top 7 overall. So you look at Ryder, like it, I'm starting to think, well, Johnny obviously had a killer showing at the first full gas, but that was 50 minutes, 40 minutes of racing a day. Ryder just showed that he could do it all day long in a rough. I mean, that was the roughest Sumter. I don't know what other guy said, but that was the roughest Sumter I've ever ridden. And I love Sumter. Like that's my track, but that was a gnarly. That was like, when I got done with Sumter, I almost felt like I had raced GNCC. I mean, it was a brutal, physically demanding race. Deep whoops from the word go.
So one thing I want to ask you about, since you are a 5-time National Enduro champion, like there's no way around that. You've obviously excelled in this series. You were just talking about like kind of the mix between, or I guess, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but the correlation between doing well at National Enduro and GNCC. Do you think that is like a direct correlation, or do you think that just because you're good at one doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see the results at the other? And do you think like running National Enduro, so when I was kind of hanging out with them last year and going through that whole National Enduro thing, that's one thing that people talked about is different types of racing maybe kind of slowing you down at GNCCs. So in the sense of riding the tight stuff in National Enduros and then going over to GNCCs and having to push it a lot harder. Like, do you think that they both complement each other, or do you think that you really got to kind of focus on one or the other? Obviously, you're up there in both series, but we see guys like Jesse Ainsley, killed Pro 2 last year. He would have won Pro 2 if he was in Pro 2 this weekend. And he'd be the first one to tell you that he wants to see a little bit better results at the GNCCs. So how do you think those translate between the two?
I think that it is there is a translation to an extent because speed is speed. And consistency is consistency. Now, when you look at National Enduros as a whole, there are very, very few riders who are very consistent. So, one, for example, Ben Kelly, if you put a number on him at National Enduro, it'd be 4. Like just blunt. It's 4. But he can ride that same pace all day long at a National Enduro, all day long at a GNCC. And when the Enduros get a little bit challenging and other guys are making mistakes, he's still running the same pace like at Ohio last year. Very technical course. When you look at GNCC, it's consistency. So that's the correlation there. If you can be consistent in your position at a National Enduro, I think that you can be consistent in your position at GNCCs. See a lot of guys that are hit or miss, that may win a weekend, finish up with an 8th the following. And that tells me that they're not a GNCC rider. There are a lot of guys at National Enduro that line up with a different mentality as well. And I think the mentality, we discussed it last time, is realistically at this point, I have to say that it's more than the physical side of racing, because now with training facilities, the things, the options are limitless. Everybody has a trainer. Everybody has a bike coach. Everybody has this and that. Everybody is really fast. I think I mentioned it last time. If you put XC2 and XC1 all on the same track, you could go to my place, and I guarantee if we all threw down lap times as fast as we could go over a 10-minute course, we would all be within 2 or 3 seconds. If you gave us all the same amount of time to warm up, we would all be within a couple seconds. And that's the tough part. Like, we're all right there. It's a difference in how you line up and how you challenge yourself, how you tell yourself that day's going to go. If you're capable of winning a GNCC, you're capable of winning a National Enduro, and anything outside of the top 10 should not even be, like, you shouldn't even consider lining up if you're going to pull a result like that. Like, if you can win a GNCC, you should easily be able to finish top 10 in a National Enduro. Vice versa, if you can win a National Enduro on a bad day, your result should be a 10th to 13th place of GNCC.
So then, just to kind of throw it out there, I don't know how much Johnny Gerard has run National Enduros, if any, but looking at the XC2 class for GNCC as far as it's concerned, I think there's probably 4 or 5 guys that could win that championship this year. I think when you narrow it down, and I had to put money on it, my money personally would be between Johnny Gerard and Lyndon Snodgrass. Both of those guys won races last year, obviously in XC2, and both of them were on overall podiums last year. Those are 2 guys that we haven't even really seen much at National Enduros, if at all. So you're talking about the speed to win a GNCC should be the speed to be in the top 10 in National Enduro. If it came down to like those 2 guys that have insane sprint speed at all these different sprint enduro events and insane speed at GNCCs, what do you think it would take for them to see success at National Enduro, or do you think they would just come out swinging and be right there at the top?
It's just like anything. I mean, National Enduro, GNCC, whatever you start is going to be a little bit of a learning curve. So I really think, and I told Wayne this, I told him this last week. He was sitting here at the house, and I was like, dude, I'd love to see you line up at a National Enduro, because Lane's sprint speed and his consistency
Lane Michael?
Lane Michael is so good. Like, he can win sprints on muddy days, dry days, technical days. Like, he's very consistent at going fast. So I think his National Enduro speed would be really good. I think that it would take him a few races or maybe a year. But we know he's good at going fast. We know he's good at finishing. Turn that off, Jake. You got it? Okay. We know he's good at going fast. We know he's good at finishing GNCCs. It would just be a mix of going fast and being consistent. So, to me, I think any of those guys are absolutely more than capable of winning National Enduros, or at least being on the podium. I think that Lennon would probably have the toughest transition, because he's probably never seen real tight trees before. Riding a dirt bike is riding a dirt bike. Riding a dirt bike fast is riding a dirt bike fast. Riding a dirt bike for a long duration is still riding a dirt bike for a long duration. He knows how to go fast. He knows how to ride it for duration. Finding a way to balance it is probably just a step away. I mean, we saw Josh Strang. I think he only ran 1 season of Enduros, but he got some podiums and some test wins there at the end, and he started clicking. I don't think it would be any different for either of those guys. So, sprint enduros are very relatable to National Enduros at the end of the day. As far as the way that you can kind of relate it across the board. I think that if you can overall, or you're capable of overalling any of these 3 series, on a bad day, if you finish outside of the top 10, then you screwed up. in any of the other 3 series. If you can overall sprint enduro, if you can overall a GNCC, or if you can overall a national enduro, the worst usage finish is 10th overall in any of the other series because you obviously are capable.
So what you're saying is fast is fast.
Fast is fast. Now,
Looking at you, Zach Osborne, with your 16th place finish.
Now, the difference is the being able to focus for 3 hours. So of all 3 series, I think the most difficult to conquer is the GNCCs, because being able to focus for 3 hours is very difficult. Being able to focus for 3 hours and know that you're the guy to beat, or know that you can beat the guy that's ahead of you, is very difficult. Knowing that there's so many variables to take place is very difficult. In a national enduro, you got lappers. You got the same lappers every test. Mm-hmm. You've got 20 minutes on, 30 minutes on, and then you got 20 minutes that you can sit there with your mechanic, change a clutch, change a tire, whatever. You can make adjustments. If you're not feeling good, you can mentally reset. That's where guys screw up in national enduros, is the mentally resetting. So I've seen a lot of guys. I don't know what happened to Trevor Bollinger this weekend, but I would have to assume that he was one of those guys, because I've seen it. And not, picking on Trevor in any way, but being blunt, when things go wrong in a rider's race or in their head, their riding changes. Trevor won test 2 and then backed it up terribly. He was sitting really good. I'm not saying terribly. He was just a little bit further off pace. And I think, personally, that he realized that he won test 2, and he realized that he was within striking distance of winning a national enduro, and he changed the way that he was riding. So,
but Bollinger, too, he's one of those guys that he got that test 2 win and then got second in test 3 and then 8 in test 4, but he came off that knee injury, came back to Sumter, and then blew his knee apart at Sumter, and that was his last experience at Sumter. So do you think, that was in the back of his mind, maybe?
No, because if that was in the back of his mind, he wouldn't have lined up. To be honest, when you're a pro racer, when you're a pro, it's your job. I mean, you might think about it before the day starts, and you might think about it afterwards. But when you line up on that dirt bike, you're only worried about winning that day and doing the best that you can, knowing your marks and doing what you did to practice all week. I personally think that Trevor realized that he was within striking distance, and in his mind, he said, okay, what would he have been after test 3? 10 seconds out of the lead? 10, 15, 12, something like that? Close. Really close.
Yeah.
So, personally, I think in his mind, because I've done it, I've been there. In his mind, the first thing that crosses is exactly what, in my mind, happened going into test 4. I choked in test 4 a little bit. I didn't crash, and I didn't make any major mistakes, because midways through, I realized, hey, you're overriding this shit. You're missing your lines. You've got to reset. So, as a racer, that's where some of these guys make a mistake, is that quick reset. After test 4, and you can ask Ryder about this, I came by. I said, yo, bud, take a breath. Chill. Ryder's a good buddy of mine. He's staying here now. Guys like him get too overwhelmed, and they put themselves in bad situations because they think, fuck, I'm 2 seconds out of it. I can do that. I can make that up. Realistically, if you start thinking about that, we talked about it last time, you're focused on me, and I'm focused on me. You're focused on my time, and I don't care who it is. If you're worried about that 2 seconds, you're focused on the other rider, not your race. So when those guys get to where they're thinking about that 2 seconds and that 2 second deficit, it changed the way they ride. And I'm guilty of the same. I did it this weekend. I did it when I heard that Lafferty took over the lead. I was like, Ryder? Like, Ryder? Like, the guy riding a borrowed bike this weekend is beating me? No, he's not. And they're like, yeah, beat you by 15 seconds in that last section. I'm like, no, didn't happen. Like, I'm gonna completely change the way that I rode that following section. I mean, somebody like Ryder, I mean, Coastal's obviously helping him, but like at the end of the day, from my understanding, I mean, he's far from factory as far as support. Like Coastal is his saving grace for his like career, and this guy's throwing it all on the line, and I'm supposed to be the number one guy out here. How do you think I'm going to ride that next section? Exactly the way I did. I overrode the first half. I missed every mark that I should have laid out in my mind. And halfway through, luckily being one of the old guys, which I'll fill you in on that. Luckily being one of the old guys now, I was able to take a breath, reset once I missed about my fifth mark. And instead of going down and throwing away a day, I recalculated, still finished second in the section, lost a few seconds to Josh, maybe 5-7 seconds to Josh, but was able to still maintain a lead and go into the next two tests with a full reset, knowing that I overrode that section. Guys like Ryder, he is there to impress. I mean, he got dropped halfway through last season. He took a ride, which luckily the Coastal guys, I mean, I can't say enough for a team like that that picks people up. I've been there. Like I was there, was obviously there, 16 months ago. I was in the same position. So when a team like Coastal will pick up a rider like Ryder, mid-season, I think that says a lot about people because the budget's not there. I mean, the sponsors aren't paying. That means that Denny, the owner of that team, and Barry, the manager of that team, had to pull strings to make sure that Ryder had support to go to those last few races. And again, this season, I heard rumor that they wanted to push Ryder onto a Husqvarna and wouldn't support him on a gas, which means that again, they are the guys, like they're personally making sure that Ryder's got what it takes. So Ryder knows this. Going into those sections, Ryder has a lot more weighing on him. As a good racer, you have to know that none of that matters. None of that plays a role in the way that you're going to ride this next section. So I think that's where Ryder choked this weekend. Was I the best racer? Absolutely not. Did I win the race? Yes. The reason I won the race is those exact reasons. Ryder was a better rider, better racer. On the track that day, he had too much on his mind. He was trying to prove a point. Did he prove a point by getting second? Absolutely. The guy was on rails. He did exactly what he needed to do, but it could have been better. But next time, if he's thinking about this On the Pipe podcast and the shit that I talked tonight, he's going to choke the same way.
Is he part of the live audience there?
No, he was. He just walked out. That's why I got a little more fired up on Ryder. Now I can talk a little more shit because now, he was going to follow along with the episode. Now he's got to log back in, which is one more viewer for the show.
No, he heard the last one because I talked to him in between tests where he was in the overall lead. And I was walking by. He said, "Hey, I'm going to get this win, and then I'm going to come on Tuesday, and we can talk shit about Stu." But kind of like what you were just saying, I'm pumped for him, man, because Ryder is a great rider, obviously, but I also think he's a really good dude, and I think that he got the shaft last year as far as his deal and his bike's getting taken and that whole thing. I talked to him quite a bit about that, and he really got shafted in that whole deal, and I don't think it was we'll save that for another day. But for him to come out at that series particularly and do as well as he did and be right there for competing for that win, I mean, I couldn't be happier for him. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I have to say, like, I rode a race, and I'm being blunt. Like, I'm not one to hide anything. I rode a race this weekend with two mistakes that cost me a total of 20 seconds. I rode a race that could have been two mistakes away from perfect, as far as speed, as far as aggression, as far as the way that I know what wins. And I feel like in years past, on that exact course, I would have won the day by 2 minutes, and I would have won every test, even with mistakes. I would have won every test. So for anybody within 2 minutes of me on that weekend, I was, like any of those guys.
Damn near the whole top 10 is within 2 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, I may sound like an asshole for saying this, but like, I've won before. That's what, like, people are like, well, he's arrogant, he's asshole, whatever. Like, okay, good for me. I really don't care what your thoughts about me or my wife or my kid or anything is. Like, I really don't give a damn. But at the end of the day, I do know what's black and white, and I know that when I'm really on, if you put me back in 2012. A day like yesterday, I would have won by 2 or 3 minutes. The overall competition at National Enduros today is so strong. I mean, Josh Toth is going to be hell this year. Like, I mean, Josh is good. Like, this May, I'm not sure, I'd have to look back, but I believe he's only ever got one other podium at Sumter, and it was the year that Ben won, I believe, maybe something like that. So a couple years ago, 19, and for him to be back on the podium. What's that?
19 was Bobbitt.
19
off
when
the
I bit my knee. So 20. So Josh got a podium in 20 and maybe 18 and 20, something like that.
Yeah.
So, Josh is one of those guys, like, he's starting out good, better than last year, not with an injury. Josh is going to be hard to beat this year. For anybody that was close to myself or Toth in these sections, like, I feel like we've kind of stood apart from the crowd in the last year as far as we were the guys to beat. And you look through the tests, like, there was a lot of times that were either ahead of us or really, really close. Like, I mean, I'm looking back through these guys. Like, Sumter's obviously one of my tracks. Sumter is one of those tracks that I do really well. Everybody has that one track. Sumter's mine. Louisiana, there's a couple of them that I just excel in. So when I look through, I'm realistic. I'm very black and white. Okay, if this guy is close here at Sumter, he may be a real threat tomorrow. Like, because Sumter is like my track. I mean, it is just one of those. I make a trip every week. I go down to Sumter, not that track, but about 10 miles past where the track is. I ride that place. I ride that exact sand, the exact conditions every single week. So when I'm looking at Sumter and I'm seeing Craig DeLong's right there in the mix, I'm seeing Trevor Bollinger. I mean, Trevor, I think he's one headstrong day away from winning a National Enduro. Like, realistically, I mean, Trevor's shown some stuff in the end of last season, and now at the beginning of this season, he's one headstrong day away. And, even back when we were doing the Moto Tech KTM thing, he ran some National Enduros, got some, I want to say, quite a few top 3 test times and some 7th, 8th overalls. Like, Trevor knows how to ride National Enduros, and it's just a matter of time before it clicks. Grant, he had a shitty weekend, but man, that guy could play Xbox all weekend or all week and not do anything and maybe beat us at the next one. So I'm not counting him out. But you look back through there's a lot of guys this weekend, more than normal, that I'm like, shit, what could they be capable of next race? Because I felt like I'll take this to my grave. I felt like I rode a race that should have won by 2 minutes, and I didn't. I didn't beat 10th place by 2 minutes, which tells me these guys are all right there. Like, I'm 2 mistakes away from the next guy being the Enduro King, which is cool. I mean, I'm all for it. Like, I said I'll talk about that later as far as the old man jokes. Somebody asked me this weekend, they said, how's the day going? I said, it's good. It's good. It's, we're sitting in second right now. Ryder just passed me. Josh is right behind me. Behind him is Craig and Trevor. And they said, damn. I had this conversation with Randy Hawkins about Mike Lafferty 20 years ago. They said, you're becoming the old man. You're trying to keep all these damn young kids from beating you, huh? And I looked at him and I was like, I paused and I'm like, what? I mean, it's very seldom that you catch somebody that's as full of shit as I am without words. I didn't know what to say. I mean, usually I could shoot shit with anybody, but not then. I looked around and I'm looking around and I'm like, shit. I'm doing math in my head. I'm like, okay, so Thad and Russell Bobbitt. Those are the only guys older than me in my class today. I'm like, last year I was the young guy. I swear to God, last year I was the young guy in the class. Not this year, I'm the old man. And they're talking about all these kids. I'm like, shit. I'm the old man now. Oh, Ben Kelly was another one. They're talking about all these kids. And I'm older than all these guys. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm trying to keep all these damn kids behind me. And I'm like, I was dumbfounded. I came in the next section. I said, Randy, I guess I'm the old man now. He said, well, I'd love to tell you that it passes, but it doesn't. He said, you should become old. He said, I can remember a conversation where Mike Lafferty came up to me 15 years after I was done. And he said, I don't know how you do it dealing with all these young punks coming up through here. And he said, I know I was one of them at one time. And sure enough, that's how I feel. I mean, I'm the old man now, so I'm trying to keep all these guys behind me. But, you know, I guess with age, I've got a little bit of experience on these guys, and hopefully I can keep them behind me for at least one more year would be cool.
Oh, you're not even old enough for the vet classes yet. Let Thad hold that title for a while.
I know, but damn, they're calling me old, man. They're calling me old. It's killing me. Hey, it's like, I'm telling you, in one day, one race. Last season I was the young guy. This year I'm the old guy. I don't know what happened. I have a kid, and now I'm the old man. Doesn't even make sense.
Funny how that works out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd love to. We won't even talk about the text messages that I sent you earlier. We won't talk about what really happens in the life of Stu Baylor as a dad. But yeah, I mean,
take that to the grave too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you better take those to the grave. I did not go to sleep at 9:00 last night, and I did not miss this episode because I didn't feel like drinking. So I was so old. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely funny how fast it happens. But no, I mean, it is really cool to see, because I was one of you. I was that young guy. I mean, when I came onto the scene at National Enduros, I was 15, 16 years old, and it happened fast. And I came on the scene as a fast guy. I won a championship because I was fast. I won 7 rounds and 9 rounds that I lined up. And I was fast. On the other 2 rounds, I probably should have won, but I probably crashed my brains out and got a concussion. And, you know, now looking back, like, I see these guys making the same mistakes that I've made. And I look at it and I'm like, yep, I've been there. And I could help a lot of these guys out because I've been there. But at the same time, damn, if I help them out, then guess what? That's my paycheck. Mm-hmm. So I just need to keep my mouth shut. So, you know, maybe this episode, maybe we should stop where we're at, because I feel like 2 weeks in a row I've given them a lot of insight on the mental side. But no, it's you know, I think that is
you're training them to beat you.
What's that?
I said you're training them to beat you.
I am, and you know, Jason Raines told me at Bybee, Tennessee, I was 15 years old. He said, you know, the greatest accomplishment of a trainer is when his trainee passes him. And that was the first day I beat Jason Raines. I had grown up living in Jason's house with he and his very young daughter and his wife at the time, Emily, and it was I said at the time, like, they're divorced.
Yeah, she is still his wife.
Yeah, no, I said I meant like at the time, as in like back then, like way back then, like, God, now I really sound old. Like, at the time I grew up, sorry, I phrased this wrong. At the time I grew up in the house with his new daughter and his wife, and at their training facility. I don't even know if they were married, actually. So I can remember her coming out on, I want to say she was on a Kawasaki and running laps around my brother and I. But, you know, Jason taught a lot to me. And I remember him saying, like, that best thing a trainer can do is get beat by his trainee. I think he swallowed a hard knot when he said that. He was that was the first time that he had seen me as a racer and not just the kid that he was training. And I went on, after that, it was like I was on a roll, and I beat my trainer. I'm the big guy in town now, and that was kind of a cool thing. And if I can help the next generation kind of get through that, that's definitely a big part of it. That's obviously why I got involved doing the training through the shoals and trying to see a little bit more than just what the guys are missing on the bike. Because I don't think that that's everything. I mean, you've got to have speed before I can separate whether it's your mental holding you back or not. But I can see it early on. You can see when kids are late, when kids don't want it, when kids, they show up day in and day out, last second, or just going through the motions. You can tell if kids really wants it or not. Sometimes you see kids with a ton of talent that don't want it. Sometimes you see kids that want it really bad with no talent. So, that's it, like I say, to go full circle, it's really cool to see the National Enduros, like, now that I am the old man, like, to see the new kids on the block and see the guys like Jesse Yancey moving up into pro class, and new riders getting involved, and even some new old riders like Rock Kepler, who it looks like he should have run Barkbusters. By the way, I've seen everybody's post this weekend.
Everybody's.
I have 0 scratches anywhere on me. I'm talking like, I'm looking on my arms right now. I've got, oh wait, I see a scratch. I've got a scratch. I got 1 scratch. And you see these boys' knuckles, like, damn, I wouldn't have, I mean.
And you're running flags?
Hell no, I wasn't running flags. You think I'm stupid? It's Sumter National Enduro. The next question you're going to ask me is if I would run up to Cherokee without Barkbusters. Hell no, I'm not stupid. But I'm 220 pounds. I run over trees. I use my Barkbusters.
So your tree dodging video that you just posted today, it's all fugazi. You actually just go straight through them all, is what you're saying.
Look closer at those trees to see how much bark is missing.
Yeah, and
it depends on the size. If it's bigger than my calf, I'm not taking it out. Smaller than my calf, I'm taking it out. No questions asked.
Hey, it's a good way to look at it. Did you see Toth's post about his statement on flags versus Barkbusters?
No, I haven't, but I guarantee he'd probably change his mind if he was talking up flags right now.
No, he is talking up flags. I'm trying.
Even after Sumter.
Yep, he said, because his hands got posted in the National Enduro pictures, and then he posted his hands too, and he said, "Where's that?"
Yeah, he's a dumbass. Like,
he said, honestly, lost a little skin on his pinkies, and he said, before the vet guys comment on this, so you are a vet guy, you old man, so he's talking to you in this post. He says, before the vet guys comment on this, if I had wraparound handguards, I would deflect into some solid pine trees.
Okay, well, ask him who won. Just comment. Say, I'm sorry, but can I ask a question? When he responds, say,
so that's a lot of.
won?
I hear that argument a lot between flags and Barkbusters. I would probably DNF every race I ever started if I didn't have Barkbusters. But that's what everyone says, that with the Barkbusters you deflect off of stuff. But kind of like you, maybe just because I'm a damn Clydesdale class rider too, it seems to just go through stuff. I don't really deflect off stuff, but I'm also going a quarter of the speed of you guys.
I mean, I understand the deflecting. Like, has it crashed me before? Absolutely. But would it save me from all those times I dipped my hand into a bush that I probably shouldn't? Hell no. That thing's just going to beat the shit out of your finger. It's going to break a finger. I ran flags one time at a tight race. I can specifically remember it because I was told that I had to run flags that day. And my fucking middle finger got caught by a vine. It caught the tip of my finger, and it twisted it, which is no big deal at all. It shouldn't have been a big deal. My flag was already ripped off. My middle finger's what I clutch with. And I just caught a little vine with my middle finger going straight through the woods in Tennessee. I was told by the team that I had to not run flags in 2014. And it twisted my finger, shattered my hand bone in like 9 different places. I've got a plate that goes from my knuckle to my wrist. And that was the last time that I ever ran flags in a tight race. And I won't do it again. I mean, whatever. Like I run flags at GNCCs, I do, because they're laid out much differently. And I ride better with flags when you're not in bushes like in a National Enduro. You got to remember, National Enduros, it is the average age, at least the last time I looked, average age for National Enduro was like 47 or 48 years old. It's an old man sport. I know, whatever. Go ahead and tell me I'm an old man.
That's why you like it so much.
So it's an old man sport, which means it is old men laying out the courses, which also means you got to think about what National Enduro is. It is National Enduro Promotion Groups, any NEPG. All they do is line up a bunch of different clubs that lay out races. So the consistency's not quite there. That's, why we see races that are a little bit different than others. They're laid out by club members of a certain club. Well, remember that average age. They're 50-year-old guys. They have a full-time job. For them to lay out a National Enduro, they're going to work after work, probably just to drink beer and get away from their wife, 6 months in advance. So a lot of these sections may grow up between the time they cut them and the time you see them, which is going to give you a little bit of variation, a little bit of little smackers and stabbers and sharp edges that you might catch. So that's why I run Barkbusters there. GNCC is the same crew week in and week out, so you're going to see a very consistent course. Again, National Enduro, I love the National Enduros. I like that sense of not knowing what's coming tomorrow. Realistically, if you woke up every day knowing what was coming tomorrow, you probably wouldn't want to live. So when I see things like National Enduro, I enjoy that. It's something different every single time. I've been to Sumter since I learned to ride a dirt bike. I learned to ride a dirt bike at Sumter. And every year it's different. It's something unexpected. So for me, that's why I like the National Enduros. And that's also why I like Barkbusters, because you don't know what the hell is trying to rip your finger off. Sorry, all my stories take way too long.
No, there's a very detailed
answer. Talk shit on this week. Who do we have to direct this shit talk? Because realistically, I don't want to make this episode so long and drug out that people don't want to listen to it. So who are we going to talk shit on? We've got to figure this out.
I think there's a lot of really good information in this episode.
There is a lot of good information, but man, we are trying to talk shit.
Hey, listen, so I'm not directly talking shit here.
Thad Duvall. Thad Duvall gave me a run for my money the last time he rode National Enduros. Where the hell was he at this weekend? I don't even think he got a top 3 test time, did he?
I'm not sure.
I just pissed off Maggie. I just pissed off pretty much everybody but Chad. Chad's going to drink a beer and say, oh, well, hell, I'd still drink a beer with old Stu. But I'm going to hear about this tomorrow. I want to talk shit on Thad Duvall.
He got 2 seconds.
Oh, fuck. I can't talk shit then. All right. Who else are we talking shit on then? What test did he get seconds in?
He got second place in test number... the last one and 4.
I beat him there then. I beat him in
Nope, he whooped you in 4.
Shit, I can't talk shit. Damn.
He whooped you by almost a second.
Does that give me Does that give me the right to talk shit or no?
I don't know. It's
I'm
going to
not-
turn into
I'm not
a
sure.
battle of the vet riders.
That's why of all the riders I picked to talk shit on him, because he's been around long enough. Like, he really wouldn't care, I don't think. I mean, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's been around long enough. Like, we've, in our careers, we've both seen enough talking shit from riders, from fans to sponsors. Like, at the end of the day, it's not going to change our lives. So I was hoping I could talk shit on him, but I guess not. So who's the next down the list?
Thad, the Rockstar boys were all clumped together. You got Craig in 4th, Thad in 5th, and Tebow in 6th.
Trevor had a good ride. He fell apart. I've already discussed that. He should have stopped worrying about me and worried about himself.
So you say that next test after that, he was down 13 seconds to the leader, 27 seconds to the leader, and then 32 seconds to the leader. So those were his tests 4, 5, 6.
Thad or Trevor?
Trevor. So everyone's still close. Like, I think it's just the competition. You guys are all pushing each other.
Yeah, no, it's.
I got Stu. You see what I'm doing here? I got to be the mediator. I got to stick up for everybody, because you can make them all hate you. If I make them hate me, then no one's gonna come on my show, and everyone's gonna hate the show.
I agree.
Then everyone's gonna post subliminal Instagram stories about shit that we talked about on the show, and I can't.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. F your feelings. Like, at the end of the day, F your feelings. Like, that's the way I feel about it. I mean, most of you guys are soft. Like, I have to say, like, especially not the generation I'm working with, not the generation we're currently talking about.
Yeah, you're in the Bob Hanna era. Those guys.
Yeah,
are tough.
Looking back through the ranks, we're looking at a bunch of soft SOBs that are probably parents are listening to this episode going, "Oh my God, he said the F word twice, and then he implied that he was going to say the F word 3 more times, and then he cussed like 7 times through there." And you cannot do this if you ever want a factory KTM ride, because factory KTM does not cuss. And which they don't, which is why I don't ride for them, because they're not fun. They're not enjoyable.
Here we go. We've reached the deep end.
Dude, whatever. You know what? If they'd pay me enough money, I mean, we'll go there later. Whatever.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just kidding. I love stirring up all ends. Now Yamaha's pissed off. See that? See what I just did? Now I took it from pissed off 16-year-olds, pissed off 16-year-old moms, pissed off fellow racers, pissed off KTM, and pissed off Yamaha in less than a minute.
But see, then no one can say that you're targeting people, because you're distributing the shit talk evenly.
Let me piss my wife off too.
We're not going to get a chance to talk before Big Buck, but we're going to talk the Monday after Big Buck. One question I've been kind of wondering, going into the season, this year, 6 of the 13 rounds are at the same location. Do you think that's a good thing? So,
realistically, I'm guessing you're saying Big Buck, Ohio, and Ironman. I think that it's great. I hear a lot of complaints about it, but I am all for the growth of the sport. Now, if you look back through, which a lot of people don't have access to this, but I'm one of the few that were fortunate enough to see the numbers. It's called the Gncc Executive Summary.
Mm-hmm.
It's what they send out when they're trying to get new sponsorship for the series. It's something that I was able to get access to see some numbers so that I could hopefully get some sponsorship for myself, which we're obviously working on with Bush and a couple other brands. I'm sure you've seen the tear-off gasket stuff, a couple others. So I'm sending these numbers out, and I'm looking through, and I see Big Buck, and I see the numbers, and I see Florida, and I see the numbers. A lot of people don't realize Florida's way smaller, like 2,000 plus people smaller.
Yeah.
Most people don't see that. A lot of people think, oh, well, West Virginia, the Boy Scout camp's got to be huge. Nah, not necessarily. There's a lot of races where they look very large, but they're not. Ohio is very consistent. It's very big. Ironman, very consistent, very, very big. Big Buck, consistent, big. There's a reason they chose to start there over Florida. I think the first year that we went to Big Buck over Florida, it went from 1,400 entries to 1,900 entries. Now it's over like 2,200 entries. It went from 4,600 people at the first round to 6,800 people. So when you start looking at that, there's a reason they're going to these places. Now, the track's not always the same. And I own a track, and I can tell you that if I water one day and don't the next, you're going to get different conditions. So the weather's not going to be the same. There's different variables. You could ride the same track every single day, and I promise you'd have different winners every single day, or at least different guys that felt good, because the track's going to change significantly. So when I see that, it is not an argument that I would even want to have with GNCC. These guys understand the market. They are very knowledgeable. I would never want to argue numbers with them, because they know them. They've got hard numbers. I've seen their numbers. Those races do very well. And if they do very well for the series, guess what? Does well for me. I can promote that. I can see that. That's hard evidence that I can take to Busch Light and say, give me a contract. I want free beer for the rest of my life. So,
so I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at. Whether it was a marketing and popularity thing or a lack of locations to go to thing.
I think that number one, it's marketing. Number two, think about any time we've gone to new locations. That place in Indiana, that place in Pennsylvania, even Camp Coker. Like, damn, every time we go there, like, if the bottom lets loose, that place can be a shithole with nothing to go around. Like, I love that facility. It is the most beautiful venue we have for GNCC. But when we try new places and the first time bad weather strikes, which seems to always happen the first year, we come to this conclusion that, damn, we really screwed up. Where when you look at Florida, you look at Big Buck, you look at Ironman, you look at these places, it doesn't matter the conditions. We know we can race, wet or dry. So it's a good, number one, I would say popularity. Number two, it's a matter of knowing, no matter what, we're not canceling. No matter what, we are not going to cancel. Because you look back to 17, 18, when GNCC got absolutely smashed it was the year I got sick, so 2017.
17, yeah.
So 2 races they canceled in 17. They got bashed by everybody, every media outlet, every spectator, everything. The reason that they don't try new places, and yes, I know Ohio's one of those places that they chose not to race. It's just because they had already canceled one. They had the weather that week.
That was the year they went to Penton after Snowshoe, and it rained worse than the Penton that they canceled.
Yeah, correct. But if you looked at the weather of the Penton that they canceled, it was like 7 days straight rain. So
yeah, and there was massive flooding. Like, that was the right call.
And it happened all around there except there. Like, it was shit luck that it didn't hit. But they did the best. I own a track now, so when I look at stuff like that, I'm like, I can see why they did what they did. It is what it is. But I agree. I vouch for 2 Big Bucks. I vouch for 2 Ironmans, and I vouch for 2 Ohios, because the fans come to those races. I talked about last time, social media, social engagement. Obviously, the guys at Caleb's didn't understand much about that. Clearly, they heard this episode, because I could see that due to what they posted on social media. And I understand that it must have upset them in some type of way, which is fine. I mean, I plan on making some people butt hurt, like, whatever. If they've got to get butt hurt, that's what it is. I mean, my focus is critical, and I've got to guard it. If I don't answer my phone, it's because I'm guarding my focus. So don't mistake my silence for weakness. I wrote those quotes from some of the shit they posted.
Goodness.
So, but no, where were we going with this? I just got
Distract people.
Uh, no. Realistically, yeah, I like having the races at all those venues. Works for me. Distracted people distract people. You're correct. I was very distracted this weekend, huh? I was so worried about talking shit on the pipe that I choked this weekend.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I guess to each their own. Have you always had this training philosophy, or did you buy into that program earlier? Like, did you find out something that works better for you?
I think that everybody has to find themselves.
Yeah.
I think that everybody has to find their own weakness, and I think that everybody has to find a reason to do what they're doing. I think that some people like being measurable, not being an asshole to Ben Kelly, but I think that Ben enjoys the grind. Like, not saying that he's measurable doing it, but I think that guys like Ben, enjoy the grind. They enjoy the suffer. They enjoy that. So for him, he likes that. He likes knowing that what he puts in is what he gets out, which is an old saying. A lot of people say what you put in is what you get out, which some people live to. Other people, they started racing, and they were brought up knowing that it was fun. It was a place they go and spend time with their family. And then it becomes a job. And when it becomes a job, they stop performing. Those people have to figure out a way to get back to making it fun and what they enjoy. Then there's other people who really suck at everything else in life. And they don't know where they're at in life. They don't know what they're doing. And they've got to make racing work. And they overthink everything. They overanalyze everything. And they put themselves into a position where they're doing what they don't want to do because it's going to make what they think they want to do better. Guys like Ricky Russell, like Ricky's a good buddy of mine, but he puts himself in a position where he thinks it's something that he wants to do, and it is. He loves dirt bike riding. He may not know where he wants to be in life. I'm one of those guys. I've been there, so I can relate to this. I was at a point, a couple of years ago where I didn't know if I wanted to ride anymore, and what I found out is that I didn't want to ride anymore because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know, did I want to put in this work to get there? And then when I put in too much work, I got Epstein-Barr. I was hooked up in 2017. I was putting myself through the ringer every day. I mean, I was training 6-7 days a week. Didn't bother me. I was doing well. I won my first Gncc. I was winning the National Enduros. I was doing really, really well. Like it was my best performance ever. I put myself to the point I got Epstein-Barr, ended up in the hospital with a bacterial infection because my immune system was shutting down. I was in the hospital for 14 days on IVs. Like it was a bad deal. And I did this to myself because I didn't know where I wanted to be or where I needed to be. So guys like Ricky Russell, he's training just to train. He's going through the motions because he knows that you've got to train to be the best, but he doesn't know how to be the best.
You still there? Hello?
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, did I lose you?
Yep.
But anyways, I couldn't tell you the perfect rhyme or reason to what it takes to be the best. But I can tell you that there's a lot of mistakes to be made along the way. There is no perfect concoction. You're going to drink this and do this, and you're going to end up being the best off-road rider to ever walk the face of the earth. I think even, arguably I would say that if we were to pass out awards to say the best off-road racer to ever walk the face of the earth, I would have to give it to Caleb, who I was fortunate enough to race with. But I can tell you, watching his career, I don't think he knows what it takes to be the absolute best off-road racer to walk the face of the earth. I don't think that I know, and I don't think that anybody knows. I think it's within yourself and moving as the time moves and figuring out, basically being adaptive. I think that yes, there are good people to put yourself and surround yourself with. There are bad people that you can surround yourself with that can be very detrimental to your program, even if they're very dedicated people. And I think a lot of people find themselves with those guys like, oh, I'm going to put myself with somebody who's very dedicated to help my performance, but then you end up overtraining, overdoing it, and make it miserable. So, to wrap that up, I guess there is no rhyme or reason. There is no one thing that's going to make you the best. That's within yourself and being able to move and find what works.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And kind of like you mentioned earlier in the show, like everyone got into racing because it was fun. And I think just like in anything in life, if you lose the fun in what you're doing, then it makes everything else that all the hard work that you have to put in to get to that point, I think it makes it even harder if you lose the fun along the way.
No, I agree. I mean, that's what, like, the biggest part is, if anybody listening is thinking about what I just said, what you just relayed, like, go out next week. I want you to put a pit board on the bottom of a tree, and I want you to remind yourself of your debt load, your house payment, your argument with your wife, and whatever else is going on in your life, and see how you ride. And then I want you to go out and drink with your buddies the following day. Forget about all that shit. Wake up first thing in the morning and go ride. Take lap times. Tell me what you do better. When shit's on your mind, I mean, the reason you get on a dirt bike, at least for the majority of this crowd, is we get on our dirt bike because it's our place to unwind. It's our place to escape. It's our place to find out more about ourselves and let everybody else. So when you forget about all the other bullshit and you're just focused on yourself, you ride very well. It's really tough when it's your living and when you've got to figure out how to do that and set aside all your differences from the world. And that's, you know what, this is way too much. This is way too much real talk. Who wants a shotgun a beer?
Man, we've been all over the map tonight.
I'm telling you, but we never really got to talk shit on anybody. Who are we going to shit talk?
This weekend, got some sprint enduros coming up.
Oh!
Are you going to either one of them?
Yep.
All right, solid answer, man. That explained everything. I got no more questions. Which one are you going to? We got the dueling sprint enduro series. This is the first weekend that they're overlapping.
24 miles from each other on the same weekend.
Yeah, and then Mid-East is opening round is also right down the road from there.
Yeah. It's up by me. Yeah, so I am doing full gas because it's different. You know, I talked about I like difference. Like, I like change. It's different, but the same from the old full gas. So I'm going to go down there. It's one day. I love the one-day format. Do I hate Billy and their series? Absolutely not. I ran it last year. I had a really good time. Do I think it's silly they're on the same weekend? A lot of people are saying that, but no, I really don't, because you got to think, these guys on the East Coast are fighting for the same weekends because GNCC and National Enduro come first. They have to, like, they're the big dogs. Until one of these series happens to be bigger, if they ever are, then they can't be the big dogs. They have to schedule around these guys. So them being on the same weekend, does it suck? Yes. Does it matter? No. They're both going to do well. I think they're going to both appeal to a different crowd. Are they splitting the same crowd? Possibly. Does it matter? No. We'll see who the best is at the end of the day. Does it matter when they shit talk each other? Absolutely not. You know what I've come to find? Shit talk is fun. People thrive. People enjoy it. It does drive people to social media. But at the end of the day, realistically, both of these guys can keep posting silent, subtle stabs at each other.
It does keep happening.
It does keep happening, doesn't it? Dude, one guy will post a post with using one rider as their background. The next guy will post a post with the same rider as the background. It's like, come on.
Or it'll be like
like
it'll be like, oh, because I forget. Do you want to tie yourself up for 1 day or 2? And then the other one posts, 2 days is always better than
2
1.
days is always better. Yeah. You know, I think we discussed this last episode about something that Caleb said to me. Do you remember what that was?
I do.
You do. Okay.
And, I don't believe that they listened to that episode.
They clearly didn't, because at the end of the day,
actually, no. Koscheck does listen to the show, I think.
Okay, well then Koscheck should stop focusing on others and focus on himself. He's a damn fighter. He should understand that. If you're focused on the other fighter, you're getting your ass beat.
And I think that he is doing that, and I think that's why he's scheduled over top of all the sprint enduro rounds.
I mean, at the end of the day, I could care less. I'm going to try the full gas and see how it goes. I'm not married to one or the other. I'm married to 2 series, and I'm doing a third for fun. And I'm going to play with the first one and see how it goes. Like I may not line up at round 2. I may not have a practice bike to show up at round 2. I don't know. You know, I'm not married to anything else, but I do want to see how it goes, and I might line up with some of Billy's series as well. Like I enjoy both formats of racing. To me personally, when I'm running 2 other series and I'm committed to 23 rounds and everything else that goes with running a track and the series that we're racing at our track as well, to give away more time is almost non-existent. So it's gonna have to be worth it. But you know, I still do enjoy that style of racing, either format. I mean, 1 day, 2 day. But I have to say, for me, with everything else I got going on, 1 day is easier for me to commit to. It just makes sense. I can leave the wife and kid, stay in a hotel for the night, and come back the following. It's easy. So, you know, that's why I'm gonna try that first round. But either way, I hope they both do well. I like seeing new series start. I like the competition. What I don't like is that they're both focused on each other. You know, Gncc does not focus on National Enduro, and National Enduro doesn't focus on Gncc. They both thrive. They both survive. They do well for themselves in their own little space. And I think these guys are so worried about what one another are doing that they can't figure out how to work together or how to focus on making their series better. They're just worried about each other. So hopefully I don't piss too many people off, but there's our shit talk for the week.
Do you think at the end of this that there will be 2 Sprint Enduro series standing?
I think.
Because I don't.
I think that there will be. And unless they can figure out how to work together, I think that there will be. And this is why. I'm not going to shit talk either one of them, because I like Billy, I like Koscheck. They're both bullheaded because they're both guys like me. They're both guys that, you know, you got one that's a fighter. Well, do you get into fighting because it's a team atmosphere? You're a fighter. Do you get into fighting because it's a team?
No.
Be blunt. I mean, you said no. Come on, be blunt. Why do you get into fighting?
Well, I think even more so with wrestling too, but it's all an individual thing. It's all a mental, like that's the pinnacle of mental strength, or a big part of it. Okay.
Why did I get into racing? Why do I want to be the best? The same thing. So at the end of the day, I don't think either of them will fail. Do I think they're going to have to bomb when they should have weaved? Absolutely. Like, I mean, that's that's my 2 cents on it. I don't think that either will fail. I think that this year, they should probably have worked it out a little bit better. You know, maybe one should have stuck to Northeast, one should have stuck to Southeast. Maybe one should have just, maybe they should have called each other and said, hey, we've got 13 open weekends throughout the season. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. It became an unspoken pissing match. And at the end of the day, all that does is piss each other off, and you're both going in for blood. Like, that does nothing for anybody. So, realistically, I don't see either of them going down, but I see that one of them, or maybe both of them, are going to have to talk to each other. Who's going to swallow their pride first? I couldn't tell you, because fighters and racers are the same. I wouldn't. I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't want to swallow my pride, because when you swallow your pride, it's almost like admitting you're wrong, even if you're not. Like I mean, realistically, and owning a track now, I've had to make those phone calls where kids are bitching and crying, and I got to call the parents and say, I'm sorry, I could have done this better. Even when I know I couldn't have, but their kid's just a crybaby. Like. Yeah, I mean, you have to make those calls, and that gives you the sense of defeat. I mean, it makes you feel defeated when you fucking call the phone, and it's like, what is going on? But no, I can see it from both sides. So, I want them both to succeed. I want to work with both of them at one point. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe further in my career, and it's like I said, competition is good. I think they'll both do well. I think that one of them will sell off sooner or later to somebody. Don't know who. Maybe to the other one. I don't know. But realistically, both of those guys are going for blood at this point, and they both know how to do what they want to do, and they're gonna. And even if they don't, they're gonna figure it out. Because that's that fight or flight instinct that a fighter or a wrestler has, or a racer. At the end of the day, it's knowing how to land on your feet, even if they're in the landing. So, I guess we'll just see how they do. Obviously, KTM's clearly contracted with Billy. Sounds like I'll be at full gas. Sounds like Josh Strang may get at full gas, and I would imagine if he goes, then probably some of the other Aussies will go. But it's going to be a divided group. We'll see the KTM Husky gas guys at one, and maybe the other brands at the other. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think it is cool that Full Gas put championship money on the line. I think anyway for you guys to make more money is always a good thing, so it was cool to see that. And like you said, it kind of gives riders options, and hey, do you want 1 day or do you want 2 days? Do you want this? Do you want that? But at the end of the day, Full Gas in its heyday was already the smallest segment of all the other race series in the area. Now you're taking that already smallest segment and trying to split it in half on the same exact days. And I think a lot of the people that were racing Full Gas last year when there was no Full Gas, they went to Billy Series, and so now they're going to want to stay loyal to that. But then you also got the people that were kind of put off at the way that series came about that didn't go to it, that now see Full Gas coming back, so they're going to go try this out. And I don't know. I hope it works out, and I hope everybody stays standing, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think so. But, there are more motorcycle racers now than ever before.
Yep.
Which is a good thing. That means that more series can thrive. And I think that Josh may be appealing to a different area than Billy is. I could be wrong. Full Gas prior was, I would say, mainly North Carolina, Virginia, and I feel like Billy kind of stepped into that. Koscheck seems to be a lot in the Northeast, and a lot in the Southeast, kind of skipping over those two states. So I think we're going to see both with a split attendance of 160 to 200 riders, and then it's going to become who does better at what Full Gas did prior. Full Gas was really good at social media and press coverage. When I look back at when I raced Full Gas,
they had a hell of an announcer too. Kept the day moving. Let me tell you what.
Yeah, that fucking guy. He was drunk half the time. I saw that guy. Dude, I saw that announcer one time doing backflips off the stage with a jar of moonshine. I'm not even kidding. I'm telling you
Hey,
what.
we put on a hell of a concert that night, you and I, though.
You're damn right. And everybody around there, they were sitting there saying, "Man, oh yeah, Baylor ain't gonna ride worth a shit tomorrow." And what did I do? I didn't even lose a cross test. I don't think I lost. I couldn't have lost if I was riding backwards, brother. I could have put my front tire on my back and I wouldn't have lost. I was so hungover. Yeah, we won't talk about that in that damn moonshine.
And it was like 20 degrees with frost on the ground.
Yeah, oh God, that was rough. I was singing Garth Brooks, top of my lawn, parking lot. But no, I like the social media, so I think it's going to go back to that. Like, who's doing the best job for the magazines, the manufacturers, and then it's going to become a fight of where the manufacturers want to go, where they see competition. So, I could see that dividing the crowd more than anything. But realistically, I just gave these guys the secret sauce to building their series better, and I guess I should have just started.
Caleb did.
Year. What's that?
I said, nope, Caleb did. You just relayed it.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, sweet.
Yeah. What's that?
Go ahead.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think, like I said, I think it's going to come down to social media, where the riders, where the manufacturers are going to want their riders, and we're going to see that kind of fizzle out within the next couple of years. Probably within 12 months, you'll see where the riders go. But I don't think either of those guys are going to back down to one another. So, that's my 2 cents. Like, if Billy just goes back to working in Maryland, or if Josh goes back to just working in Pennsylvania, I think that either series will do well. But I don't see either guy bailing. That's for sure. They're in for it. But the next step would be getting it to be a national series, which I would like to see as well. So maybe the AMA, a little competition, the AMA might step up and choose one of them to be another enduro national series, which I know won't happen in the next couple of years, but maybe at some point.
Yeah, we'd have to get a lot more people out to both of them. But that's the point, growing sport, growing the disciplines. Because, right now, until Sprint Enduro grows big enough to justify its own national championship, there's no chance, because there's one Enduro national championship, and that is the National Enduro.
Yep, correct.
But, man, as always, I really appreciate your time. We went through a whole whirlwind of stuff. We gave advice for riders, advice for promoters, advice for sponsors, advice for Busch Light or Coors Light or Keystone Light or White Claw. We covered the whole basis. But, so I guess this weekend I will be at Full Gas as well. You will be at Full Gas. And then next weekend, start things off with the Gncc series at Big Buck. Is there anything else on your mind before we wrap it up?
I can't think of anything. I'm almost wondering, should we give, I said every other week we need to do something, but maybe next Monday we're going to have to come up with another podcast, like, instead of every other week, maybe do every week for the next 3.
Well, then we're going to have to jump right back into it when Florida and Georgia go back-to-back.
I know. I mean, we'll at least get a week off between Big Buck and or no, there's a Full Gas in between there, isn't there? Shit.
We're about to start. I think this jumped off 11 straight weeks of racing.
Okay. Well, we'll touch base next Sunday and see if I feel like drinking and talking shit.
All right.
And if so, we'll discuss possibly results of Full Gas and Sprint Enduro, and then also Big Buck, and then maybe skip the next weekend. Just wrap it all up after Florida.
All right. That works for me.
We'll go over it.
Well, we might have to get a couple of your fellow vet riders on next week, kind of combat you, get their feelings out there too.
I think I'm going to call these guys out. I think that if we could get if you could figure out how to get a video podcast going after Big Buck.
That's the plan. The plan is video after Big Buck.
If you could get a video going the night of Big Buck, and you could get myself, Thad, and Caleb, and we could bounce off of each other, I think it would be a really, really fun one. Maybe even Josh Strang, but I feel like he's the type that would want to cut out quick after the race. And Caleb...
you're talking about a live one?
Absolutely.
I thought you meant video chat. You meant real video.
Oh, no. Right there on the spot. Right after Big Buck's over. Let us shower. Let us wash our nuts off and then get right into it. But I think that, Caleb is, he would have a lot of insight as a bystander, which I'm coming, later in my career, I'm starting to learn, like, you see a lot more as your career goes on. You see a lot more mistakes that you may have made or that other riders are making. And some of them, yes, they may be incorrect. I judged Lane last week. Well, apparently he had a broken rib. So, damn, it is what it is. Like, I was judging based off of what I thought was going on, and I was wrong. But, Caleb can see a lot from his side. Thad has been around a while. He can see a lot. Josh has been around a while. He can see a lot. I think those guys would have some good insight, maybe after Big Buck, if everybody on the podcast could possibly check in, tag them, talk shit, and say, are you guys scared to sit with Stu Baylor in a booth for an hour after Big Buck? If you are, too bad. If not, we'll play poker, $100 buy-in, 1-2 game, and we'll talk shit and play poker the entire time.
So do you want to do this after Big Buck or like Saturday night?
I mean, I'm thinking after Big Buck, but whatever they're down for, because I know Thad and Caleb are a little bit soft. Like they like to act like they're big boys, but they're not. I mean, Maggie has Thad's balls in his hand and her hand, and Caleb, he's got his third kid on the way. That fucking guy, he thinks he's a big guy, but Chandler, she twists that thing one good time and he's going back home. So, I say after the race, but whatever their wives will allow them to do.
I'll work on Thad and Strang. I think
All
I
right.
might need your help on convincing old KR. He told me I keep having this guy on that keeps talking shit about him, so he probably won't answer my requests.
I'll talk shit on him next week after the Full Gas 2, and then maybe after 3 weeks in a row, he'll want to defend himself.
Yeah. Then once the season starts, then everyone should be okay to jump on social media, jump on the podcast, and
Yeah, I mean, realistically, he's focused on me and I'm focused on you, right? Wait, how does that go?
you and I are focused on OTP, and all of them are also
wait.
focused on
Oh,
OTP
sorry.
and what's being said.
He's focused on the pipe, and wait, he's focused on my pipe and I'm focused on the pipe. Wait, how did that? Damn it!
Nailed it.
Yeah, perfect. So maybe we can get Caleb on there. I think that Thad would enjoy it. Like I think Thad's a good sport. I think that Josh would be a good sport. And Caleb, like all those guys have a mutual respect. I feel like all four of us, we're kind of the older guys in the sport. Obviously one of them retired, so he's extra old. But I feel like we have a mutual respect for each other to where we won't actually we'll all want to physically fight each other, but we won't actually throw hands. If that sounds okay.
That sounds like must-see TV.
Like realistically, it's like when fighters stand off nose to nose. Like I think that we could have a little bit of fun with it. But no, I would love to see those guys get on. I think we could keep it interesting. I think that all three of those guys all three, if we could get them all three, like at least two of them at a time would have good insight. And I personally would love to put them on the spot with some Odd questions. Whether they would answer them or not, I don't know. But I would love.
Hey, that's not going a long way in convincing them to come on.
I think it is, because I think that all three of them would want to hear what I had to ask. Just out of curiosity.
All right. Well, there you have it. So I need you to work on Caleb. Strain texted me while we were talking, so I'll work on him. We'll get Maggie to work on Thad. And then we need everybody that's listening to the show, all the OTP listeners, whatever Instagram post gets put out for this show, we need your guys' help as well to get these guys involved.
We'll sit around the fire, we'll play poker, we'll drink beer. Josh will be drinking a Foster's, Caleb will be drinking a Miller, Thad will be drinking water, and Maggie will be looking over his shoulder, and I'll be shotgunning bushes in the corner with the tee shop.
I'll just be a fly on the wall.
No, you're shotgunning bushes with me.
All right, I'm in.
All right, perfect.
We got it all set up. So, man, thanks for your time, and I guess we're cutting things down. So next Monday, weekend review with Stu. Talk about Full Gas, talk about U.S. Sprint Enduro, probably throw some Mid-East and whatever else is going on in there, and then we'll really set the stage for hopefully our big discussion at Big Buck with everybody else.
Do you think that Jason Hooper would join in on next Monday's podcast?
Ooh, that would be a good one.
That would spice it up between the Sprint Enduros, huh? The series? The first battle?
Because at the end of the day, I mean, realistically, both of these series are chasing what Hooper created, what Hooper started, and what Hooper built up.
Do you think that Jason would get offended if I told him that his Facebook post was very offsetting to a lot of mini moms?
Oof. Only one way to find out.
I would start the conversation like that. So maybe we'll touch base with Hooper this week, and we'll make it interesting for the next 2 or 3.
Perfect. I'm going to clip this up, send it to Hooper. We got a lot of stuff going on right now.
Hey, if you can't do it, just bullshit your way through it.
Now, let's just hope that we can make all this stuff happen. Otherwise, it's going to ruin our credibility.
No, because I'm still here. I'll be here. I'll be here for you.
Perfect.
All right. Well, we'll catch up next Monday.
All right, man. Thanks again for your time, and congratulations on your win over the weekend. And we'll see you this weekend. And everybody, we'll talk with you next Monday.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
See you, man.